Welcome to the London Photographic Association Film and Video Showcase, LPA Moving Pictures. M.T. Adler taught film at Columbia University in her native Chicago before turning to full-time filmmaking herself in 2002. Here she talks exclusively to LPA Moving Pictures about how she balances her personal and commercial work, and also touches on some of the problems faced by women in the film industry.
Okay, so photography started in high school. Actually, I was a sophomore in high school. It was a very dodgy high school, and I had this amazing chemistry teacher who I think saw that I had a spark. And in order to keep me out of trouble, we had a darkroom in our chemistry class. He taught me how to develop film. And that's how I started in photography. Instead of going out and cutting class and getting into all sorts of trouble with drugs and boys, that came much later. But I started doing photography then.
Now, how do you go from there to going to Iraq and becoming embedded in Iraq? Because that's quite a leap. Was that photography initially that took you there, or was it film? Did you have a film project in mind when you went there?
Let's see, the leap from the feature film to the doc in Iraq, I would say, was really about intellectual curiosity more than anything else, because I was being shoved all these images from the media about this lead up to the war, and I questioned everything, and I have a tendency not to believe what I'm hearing from the media. Maybe I think it's healthy just to not accept what you're being fed. So I wanted to see for myself, and I just decided if I'm gonna go to Iraq, I might as well take a video camera with me, and I did photography and a documentary. And I went there with no agenda. I just wanted to see what was really happening, and what I found was a pretty fantastic story about an Iraqi interpreter who had been targeted by the insurgents for working with the American coalition, and his big dream was to go to the States. He wanted to go to America. I was embedded with a military unit, and this lieutenant colonel loved this kid and wanted to help him so much. But because it's so bureaucratic, and there's so much red tape, it became impossible for the Army to actually help this kid who had been doing so much for them. So I said, well, part of it's, I'm naive. I just said, okay, I'll take him to the States. And I did. And I delivered him to Fort Hood, Texas, where they were all back from Iraq, and said, okay, I brought him. Now it's up to you to do the rest. And they did.
How did you make the leap from that, which is all very personal work, to the Law and Order franchise? I mean, how did this happen for you?
Well, the way I got into television, directing Law and Order, was my feature film, Boricua, the little indie film, was at Tribeca Film Festival. It did very well. It was sold, and an executive producer from Law and Order: Criminal Intent, Fred Berner, saw the film and liked it very much and asked me if I was interested in doing television, and I said, of course, it would be lovely to be paid for my work. I would absolutely adore it. And I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. It's a very different experience. It's, as you said, it's not personal work. Especially as a director on a television show like that, you come in as a guest. The crew's the same, the cast is the same, so they have a bond, a sort of family environment. And
one of the things that inevitably comes up is the fact that you're in a profession, and we would say two professions, both film and photography, where women are not necessarily highly represented.
Women in television and photography and film. My experience with mainly television in the U.S. is there are only a handful of women directors in television. I think women have an easier time in film than they do television, but it's very, very male-dominated still industry. I don't understand why that is. I've been in interviews for shows, to direct shows, where the executive producer of a show who's interviewing me will unconsciously say something either very sexist or at times racist, and I'm always struck dumb by the experience. especially because I don't even think they realize that they've said it. I don't know where that comes from. I go by MT Adler as well as Marisol Torres.
That was an LPA Moving Pictures production.